right, welcome back to this fifth video in a series about formatting long documents using a word processor, particularly thinking about academic documents when you're writing a PhD thesis or a master's thesis or even a master's or an honors essay. The types of skills and tools that I want to show you that word processors offer are really useful for those kinds of documents, and that is the kind of document that I am focusing on in these videos. Now, in the previous video, I said that in this session, we are going to look at a very powerful but often misunderstood aspect of paragraph formatting, and that is tab stops, or also known as tabs. I'm going to show you where they are and what you can do with them. Okay, now, I would recommend when you start to play with tab stops that you make sure the ruler is visible for your document. Remember from our first video that there are different things you can turn on and off depending on how you like to work, how much real estate space you have on your screen, and whether you're using multiple monitors or have a teeny tiny little laptop like I do. Go to the View menu, and the ribbon offers you Show Navigation Pane, Grid Lines, or Ruler. If I click off ruler, you can see the rulers disappearing from the side of the screen as well as along the top of the document, just beneath the ribbon. I recommend you turn the ruler on when you are looking at tab stops. And the reason why will become apparent in a moment. Back to the home ribbon and the paragraph subsection, select paragraph settings, a little bit more detail. And at the bottom of the dialog, in the left-hand corner, there should be a button called tabs. This opens a new dialog, which is specific to setting tabs. Now, we all have a tab button on our keyboard, which sometimes we use to alt-tab through different windows that are open at the same time on our operating system. But most of the time, people familiar with tabs are used to using it to create a quick indent of a particular size from the left-hand side of the page. I'm going to close this dialog quickly and show you what I mean. If I place my cursor at the start of the first paragraph, the top of my page, and I press tab, you can see I'm jumping forward. And in this case, I'm dragging the hanging indent with me. That's what people normally use tab to do. In fact, they might do it on several lines, and they'll go, oh no, I want to do some spacing. Perhaps you're trying to create some kind of columns to line up different pieces of text at intervals from left to right across the page. But tabs are not just like a giant space bar, which is how most people tend to use them. They're much more powerful than that. Let's go back to that tabs dialog. All right, a tab stop is an anchor point on the horizontal axis of the document, which designates where a piece of text gets attached and aligned. The default tab stop is 1.27 centimeters, or for those of us who are confused by that, it is a kickback to imperial measurements. It is half an inch, but it doesn't have to be. Even though that's the default that Microsoft sets, in particular, this is MS Word, you can set it to anything you like, and you can set more than one. Let me show you with just left tab stops in the beginning. I wanted to set a tab stop at 1 centimeter. I want it to be left aligned. I type 1 or 1.0 because this is going to be in centimeters. I pick left alignment. We'll talk about leaders in a moment. Don't worry about that. And I click set. And I have a left aligned tab stop at 1 centimeter. I'm then going to put another one at 4 centimeters. And then I'm going to do another one at 8. And then I'm going to do another one at 12. So I have 4 tab stops set, all left aligned. Okay, now look at what has happened on that ruler. Do you see these little black L's at those intervals that I set? 1 centimeter, 4 centimeters, 8 centimeters, and 12. And what I have done is I have said, when I hit the tab button from the leftmost margin of the page, that is where I want to jump to. Watch this. Lorem ipsum is now going to jump to 4 centimeters when I hit the tab button again, and then to 8, and then to 12. I could have, and notice as well that that is specific to my paragraph. So I put my cursor inside this paragraph and my tab stops are there. But when I place my cursor in the next paragraph, they aren't. The tab stops I have defined are specific to this paragraph. It is part of this paragraph's formatting, but it does not apply to the other paragraphs. Now, why on earth would you want to do something like that? Well, as I said, sometimes perhaps you're wanting to do some kind of a visual table. If I hit enter at the end of the paragraph, the previous paragraph's formatting is copied over to the next one. So you can start to create like a visible sort of table without using a table if you want to. But it's also extremely useful for just making sure that if you are going to use that jump forward feature, that things line up. It's not a question of going a little bit of a tab and then dot 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 and then I want to get this one to line up here, letter set to line underneath. Let's do this a little. Let's say I want to get typesetting and letter and release. And you sort of doing this thing with the space bar. We show the formatting without tilde button. The tab is shown with that arrow. And you think to yourself, oh, okay, all right, so I can set tab stops, but what if I want to get rid of them? Well, you go back to that tab dialog and you say clear all, and they've all the tab signals are still there. A tab is a particular character, like a space or like enter. They're still there, but they've now reverted to the default position of 1.27 centimeters. So they'll do one at half an inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, etc. The point is you can control it to change your formatting. When would you use something like this? Well, I find them particularly useful in headers and footers. But before we can find that they are useful in headers and footers, I need to show you about different kinds of alignment in tab stops. And then you'll also see that tab stops are what your table of contents uses to produce leading trails of dots between a page number and a section heading. Right, let's have a look first at different forms of aligned tab stops. I'm going to go back to my tab dialog and I'm going to go, okay, I want a tab stop position. I want to align some text on the left-hand margin of my document. I want to put some in the middle, and I want to put some on the right-hand side of my document. What would I do to do that? You can see along my ruler that my left margin is 0 centimeters. My right margin is 16 centimeters for this particular set of margins. When we do sections, you'll see your tab stops need to think about how wide you have set the space for text on your page. But my middle point and my end point on this particular setup is 8 centimeters and 16. So what do I want? I want to have maybe the document name on the left. I then want to put the page number somewhere in the middle. And maybe I want to put the author name on the right-hand side. And I want it to be consistent and neat and easy to control, even if it is at the top of 100 pages or at the bottom of 1,000 pages. I want to be able to define this in such a way that if I decide, actually, no, I want everything to be left aligned, I change it in one place and the whole document changes. All right, let's see what we could do. We would take our paragraph and we'd go to our tabs dialog. And we go, all right, I want a center tab at 8 centimeters. Set. And I want a right aligned tab at 16 centimeters. Is my dog barking? Excuse me. Okay, so I have set 2 additional tab stop positions, one at 8 centimeters, which is centered, one at 16, which is right aligned. Click OK, and have a look at what's happened on my ruler. Can you see that there are some little black marks? They don't quite look like that, the left black little L that we had for left aligned tab stops. There's a little T, inverted T at the 8 centimeters, and at the 16 centimeters, which looks a little bit off my rightmost margin actually, there is a little backwards L, which corresponds to, in fact, you can see, I can grab it on my ruler and I can drag it, which one must be careful doing because one's dragging is not as accurate as precisely saying X centimeters or Y centimeters. But what is going to happen here? When I hit the tab button, I jump to the middle and I go page number here. But it is not just that I jump to the middle. It is that the text I attach to that anchor, to that tab, is center aligned. So on the left, it is left aligned. But over here, that tab stop says anchor the text and center it around 8 centimeters. And then when I press tab again, you guessed it, jump to 16 centimeters. And where is it going to be? It's going to be right aligned. That's very useful for headers and footers to make sure that it is exactly neatly presented and that it is not going to jump around because I've used a million space bars and I'm trying to do it in a different way by going document name, tab, 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 space, space. This kind of looks like it's the middle, sort of the middle, not quite. And then I'm going to go, okay, how do I get the author name? But the author name, oh, no, okay, so go back and I'm going to delete a tab and I'm going to go, when's it going to jump there? Okay, so much easier than faffing around with spaces and tabs to try and get things to line up properly. Use your tabs. So later when we do headers and footers, I will show you how to do this more, but if you double click in the top of your document, you can access the header and you can go, all right, I want to say, this is my document. I want to go insert a page number, please. My current position will do just fine. And I'm going to go Sarah Black, which is my name. And that will go at the top of every single one of my pages. And I can start to say, all right, we'll put this at the top of every page for chapter 1, except the first page, which I want to look pretty. And we'll start to look at that when we do sections and headers and footers attached to sections. But for now, we're sticking with paragraphs and all text in a header or footer. You guessed it, it is a paragraph. All the paragraph formatting applies. And so everything that goes underneath here, alignment, indentation, you might recall in the previous video I mentioned that this is a good place where you can start to do things with borders, but also tabs. Very useful to use your tabs here. You can see they're a little bit off because my document's not, my actual writing space is not 16 centimeters, it's 15.92. That's okay. Thank you very much. That's very useful. I wanted to actually sit within the print space and not at some arbitrary round number because it looked easy and neat to me. But if I don't want those tab stops, you just go clear all, okay, and then you can see it reverts back to your default tabs. What about that other weird thing that we had with tab leads? Okay, I'm going to show you what that looks like now. All right, let's go to a new page or a new section of our document. And let's say this was something like our table of contents. When you auto-produce a table of contents using references later, this is exactly the paragraph formatting feature that is used. And I'll go, all right, I want to show perhaps a frequency count for a set of categories and statistical data that I've produced. And these are my categories. and I want to say a frequency count for each one. But it's going to be difficult if I just go tab, 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 tab. There were 5,789 of these guys. And then there were 14,920 of those guys, and those aren't lining up, and it looks a little bit untidy. All right, can we do something a bit better using tabs? Let's have a crack. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, I'm not going to use a table for this. I'm going to use tabs with a lead on them. I'm going to grab those paragraphs because there are 5 paragraphs there. Remember, show your formatting. Each of these designates the end of a paragraph. I'm going to go, right, paragraph formatting. Give me some tabs. I'm going to set a tab stop position, which is right aligned at 7 centimeters, but the leader can be underscores, dashes, or dots. I'm going to go with dots. Set. Thank you very much. I didn't delete a tab stop there. There we go. You can see when you press tab, it jumps to the correct position. Can you see my little right aligned tab marker on my ruler? But now it gives me a nice, neat, even line of dots up to that position, and I can go number of them here. And it auto adjusts the amount of space and redraws the dots neatly for me. Okay, more numbers. Here's a number. Here's another one. We're finished. Okay, and the tabs are what are making this turn out neat, nice, and consistent. Contrast that with if I was trying to do that manually, and I've seen people do this, and they will literally go with a full stop. Can you see that it's not coming in out nice and neatly? Then they'll try and guess where they need to start typing. Oh, that was actually quite convenient. That worked out. But can you see that actually, if I zoom in, these have been clumped into 3s. They have been grouped into 3s. Compared to these, if we try and really zoom in, quite difficult to see. But these have been lumped. If I even try and select them, it jumps in 3s. Why? Because ... automatically resolves in a word processor to an ellipsis symbol. And so instead of having 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 21, 27, I shouldn't have done this, should I? 36, 39, what's that? 41 full stops. Word thinks I have 13 ellipses and 2 full stops. Can you see that they're actually even a slightly different size? Okay, so this has become resolved to an ellipse. There you go. As soon as I do 3, 1, 2, 3, and you can see it goes to a smaller single symbol. All right, so firstly, it starts to look a little bit inconsistent. Secondly, it's a bit of a guesswork. So much neater and easier with tabs. You can see there's your tab symbol there. It is treated as a single symbol, and the leader gives you nice, consistent formatting. You could change that leader to be a different style if you wanted. Instead of having the dots, let's make it underscores. And it changes to underscores. So you can see how when Word produces a table of contents and says, okay, first section is on page 1, and the second section starts on page 15, and the third section starts on page 32. This is how a table of contents gets produced. And it allows you to read across the page. It draws the eye from the item on the left to the item on the right. All right, that's tabs. I think they're very, very useful. You can find them on the ruler if you want to, but I think the dialogue is much more precise and gives you more control. But just in case you're interested in being able to do it through a widget instead of through a dialogue, you can grab hold of your paragraph, select it, place your cursor in it. You can click on this left-hand feature here, just below the ribbon, which allows you, that's a center tab, that's a right tab, that's a decimal tab if you are doing accounting and you want to align text around, you want decimal numbers to line up. I'm not sure what that one is. I should Oh, a bar tab. Oh, right. So instead of aligning around a decimal, it's going to align around a vertical bar. You can do them there, and then you can grab hold of them and go, okay, cool. I'm going to place a tab here at 3 centimeters, and I click on my ruler, and you can see it places my tab there. And I go tab, and there you go. There's my bar. But I think it's much neater to do it through the tab dialog. You get a lot more control. And that, I think, is the end of this particular video about tab stops. I'll see you in the next one.